Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Experts. Great to see you this morning. I am Ann Capozzi, Design Build here in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, and I am here today with Rob and Robin from Signature Home Services, as well as Bill Wilson from Valor Home Services. So Robin and Rob, would you like to start by introducing yourselves?
Sure. My name's Rob Matthews with Signature Home Services. I'm the president of the company. We've been in business now for 25 years, and we're a design build company here in North Texas, just between Dallas and Fort Worth. And we are a husband and wife team, and we really enjoy what we do.
Delegator of the company. So I'm also an interior designer registered with the state of Texas. And I have, I guess they say here in Texas that I got here as fast as I could. Rob is actually born and raised here, but I'm a transplant. Glad to be here this morning, Ann.
Great. Bill?
Good morning, everyone. Happy pre-Mother's Day to all the wonderful moms out there. Bill Wilson, Valor Home Services. We're located in the Midwest, right outside of the St. Louis area, about 8 hours south of Chicago. So if you're thinking Illinois, don't think Chicago, think more, I guess, St. Louis area. We're in the rural part of the southern part of Illinois. And we've been in business for 25 plus years. I am an Air Force veteran, and I am the chief, and I'm a retired Air Force chief, master sergeant, with a little over 26 years of service, primarily in electronics and so forth. Been around the world, and glad to be here with everyone this morning.
Terrific. Great. Well, let's get started this morning. We've had quite a few questions come in, and I think this is a good question for Rob. It says, I'm seeing cracks starting to show up in my ceiling. My house is over 40 years old. Is it foundation problems?
It really depends on your geographic location, what time of year it is, because sometimes you'll start getting cracks during one part of the year, and then all of a sudden you notice it in, say, the summer. You noticed them in the winter. In the summer, all of a sudden, they're gone. You're like, what happened to them? So climate change, just like anything that gets hot and cold, can expand and contract. Soil conditions can be the big part of it. But there's no way of just saying just because you have cracks, you have a foundation problem. I would recommend finding your own structural engineer. I'm not a big fan of just calling a foundation repair company and having their engineer come out. I usually recommend finding your own engineer so you can get your kind of an unbiased opinion of your foundation. So.
Don't you think though too, I mean, it could be a couple of things. I mean, it could just, if they haven't done maybe they're spending more time in their house now and they're seeing those cracks that they haven't seen before.
Sure.
And some of it could be settling, the drywall could be separating, or depending on which part of the country they're in. I mean, it could be shiplap.
And like she mentioned in drywall, when you see nice and straight cracks, like in the seams of drywall, I'm less concerned about those because those are just butt together and you got some mud over top of it. And it could have just been nailed versus screwed the way we do it now. What you're really concerned about is looking up in the corners of doors and windows or even across ceilings or walls. And when you see drywall cracks that are coming down at an angle, that means there's some substantial forces involved that would break a piece of drywall in across the face of it. So if it's just minor linear cracks, it may just be a little bit of settlement, due to the climate changes.
Okay, terrific.
Hey guys, I actually, if you think about just the reverse of that, actually, we see cracks in floors, right? Ceramic tile, grout cracks, a couple of things. It could be not mixed properly. It could be wiping it too soon. and so forth. If it goes across a tile and there's no obvious weak spot, like we talked about in one of our episodes about marble and granite having some natural weak spots in it, if it doesn't go and follow those lines, then it could be structural. But in hardwood here in the Midwest, what we use for a gauge is basically the thickness of a dime. So if we go into a home in the winter and there are cracks that are larger than the thickness of a dime, that's a good indication that there's something else going on there rather than just what we call seasonal cracks. So same thing applies on the floor.
Excellent. That's good information. Thank you. I think that's very helpful. All right, here's another question. It says, and this is related to flooring. It says, I want to do something nice for mom. How should I clean flooring?
Yeah, it's funny. I got that message or question a couple of times this week, especially, the younger teenagers that are home and so forth. They're not out with their friends. They want to do something nice. They don't have the money to go out and purchase different things and so forth. So depending on the product, I would always say start with a very neutral cleaner of any sorts if it's a hard surface. And Robin and you guys probably know, can talk to countertops and things like that. But on the floor, we want anything that is very neutral, no acid base. If it's hardwood floors, so let me caveat all that first. First of all, make sure if you know the manufacturer, you check with the manufacturer first, right? So do a little Google. You can go on our website. We've got our warranties and maintenance and cleaning guides right on our website for all the flooring products that we provide. But go and check if you can on that. But if you don't know, in the absence of that, use a very neutral cleaner. Make sure that it's not acidic, make sure it's not abrasive, and then just do a small test area first. So I always tell folks, go into a pantry closet or something like that, do a test area, wipe it back up, clean it, neutralize it. Even if it's neutral, go back and then wipe it down again, and then wait for a couple hours and see how it looks. And if there's no reaction, then move forward with that particular cleaning. And that's probably the best thing.
So Bill, Pinterest always says vinegar and water for everything.
So that was going to be my question is, when you say neutral, what do you mean by neutral? What are some suggestions for something that's neutral?
Yeah, pH balanced product. So nothing like vinegar. Vinegar is acidic, and eventually it will tarnish and etch the finish. You'll have us back out. So I tell folks, no liquid gold or any polish or acrylic wax type of product, and then no vinegar and water. If you have an older hardwood floor, and I may contradict myself here a little bit, but if you have an older floor that has a lot of wax buildup, then it's potentially okay to use that. But always come back after you test an area, come back and do a very good clean rinse. But I usually recommend no vinegar and water. It used to be what we had a long time ago before we figured out that it was actually etching the floor.
Good. That's even good advice for me.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, don't you see that as well, even when it comes to grout, which you really should not be using? People want to use
Baking soda
cleaners, and the vinegar and water is not a good idea at all when it comes to grout cleaning as well. And I will say, with my kids home, I'm going to have to make sure they watch the episode, because I would love it if they clean the floors, clean the countertops, clean the backsplash. I'd like to talk a little bit about the backsplash area, because don't you think, Robin, that when people are remodeling and we're putting in a new backsplash, you really want to think about how much you cook, right? When it comes to clean, and what are we putting back there? If you're doing this highly decorative tile that's really intricate and you're cooking a lot, I mean, there are some things to really consider when it comes to maintenance and cleaning of these products, above and beyond just the look of them.
Right. I know when we first remodeled our house and we put these pencil liners up in our backsplash, and the first thing that my mother said when she came to our house was, those are dust collectors. And I was like, oh my Lord. But you're right. You know, I can't tell you how many times we've had people that have fallen in love with a stack stone that is a chisel cut, and they're thinking, oh, this would be great, as you know, because it would have texture and everything on my backsplash. I said, how are you going to clean that? And they look at me and they're like, oh, yeah.
Didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. And the same thing, you know, that Bill just said about the vinegar is you've got to think about how you're actually going to clean it, because we've got a lot of people now that are using glass, and glass will etch. So you've got to be careful. And, you know, most of the times if you've got a natural stone, you know, like a quartzite or a granite or a marble on your countertops, you're not going to be using anything very harsh anyway. But, and you are exactly right. Yeah, you shouldn't be.
But most people, like you said, I think all of us would agree that when we really try and listen to what our clients want and balance that so we can let them know ahead of time what makes sense. But beyond that, when we're done, encouraging them to read the materials that they're given on how to maintain these products, because they've spent, or these new materials, they've spent a lot of money on renovating, and you certainly don't want to have an issue in any period of time because you used the wrong cleaning product. And you're right. I mean, there's so much on the market, and people think that quartz composite countertops are impervious. Well, you need to use the right cleaner on them. You can't just use anything. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to things like that.
Kind of like some of the grout cleaners. Everybody, you know, will use the grout cleaners, especially in bathtubs and around the tile around a bathtub. And they said it works so well. And some of these grout cleaners are just a weak acid, and it's not
like Tilex.
Yeah, it's not really. I wasn't going to name anything, but it's not really cleaning it. What it's doing is eating off the top layer of grout and exposing the cleaner layers underneath. You keep doing that, it's like erosion, and the grout just gets thinner and thinner, and eventually it's going to start leaking. So you got to be careful with what you're using too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important on all of our surfaces. Okay, so the next question, it says, help. My trim paint has really yellowed. I bought the same color and it doesn't match. Robin, do you want to?
But it's white.
Stop.
Most likely, and we can probably all attest to this, it's probably an oil-based paint. I mean, on the trim for the floor, on cabinets that are painted, I mean, everything. It's probably an oil-based paint. And so over time, oil-based paint's yellow. That's why we don't use them anymore. Number one, they emit a great amount of VOCs. They're very stinky. So that's one reason why we don't use them anymore. But it's the same thing. We always tell people when you go into any project, and again, this relates to if Ann comes in 5 years later to install new cabinets that they want to match their existing, or Bill comes in to put flooring in, or Rob's doing an addition, you know, the materials age over time. So you have to think when you're going into a project, where's a good starting and stopping point? Because if you replace a door, let's say it's, you know, in the biggest room of your house, and you have to replace that door for some reason. Let's say you're at home and there was a little accident and there ended up being a hole in the door or something. So now you're having to replace it. And of course you're having to paint it. So all of that paint is going to look really fresh and pretty. So where do you stop with the rest of it?
Because that paint looks different than the baseboard. You paint the baseboard to another door, and that looks different, and then it just kind of dominoes on
Right.
you.
Or Bill comes in and does new floors for you, and he puts in new shoe mold. Well, now the shoe mold doesn't match the baseboards. So
Right.
It's kind of on and on.
It really is. I think there's so much attention to detail that we all as professionals have to keep in mind as you're working through these projects, because in the end, clients are looking at these great spaces, and it takes you really have to think through all the implications of everything as you're considering a renovation, and the cost. Like you said, where do you start and where do you stop with a lot of these finishes, knowing that they're not going to be an exact match. They're going to blend. And as professionals, we all are going to do our best to make sure that they blend properly. But like you said, the matching it's always interesting in a renovation and trying to
It is.
things. But that's the job of a professional, to make it look seamless and that your eye isn't drawn to these issues.
But as a homeowner, is what we do, but a homeowner can also do it, is if you're going to paint trim and you don't want to have to paint all the trim throughout the whole house, is take off a piece of trim, if you can, from somewhere like Bill was saying, in a test area, like in the back of a closet or something, pop off a piece of the baseboard and maybe take that to a professional paint store and leave it with them. Sometimes it may take a day or two, but they will tweak it and mix a paint. And usually when I go to pick up a sample like that from Sherwin-Williams, I'm asking them, where did you put the sample? And they're like, oh, it's in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm really looking, and they do a very good job doing that. It's just not Sherwin-Williams. Most of the major paint stores can do that for you.
Yeah, and I would say some better than others. Even though they're computers, there are people that I have found that their eye is better than the computer. Have you found that?
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing to me.
Interesting you say that. I actually, we work obviously with stain colors and so forth. And I usually, when we'll put several stain colors on the floor, I'll usually ask, the very first question I ask is, what color do you see? What shades do you see? And the reason I do that is because I may see it differently than them, and it's obviously their color choice. So we want to make sure that they see it the way. And just last week we had one where the lady, we put down a floor and we thought there was no way it matched the existing. One was orange, one was neutral, not even red. It was just really more of a golden brown color. And we put that color down just as an option. And she said, that's the one. I love it. It's beautiful. And I looked at the floor and I went, oh my goodness, that does not look the same. But to her, it looked exactly the same. So really it's important to make sure that you look at that and not take someone else's word for it when you're doing color matches, because it's your home. It is your home, your choice.
Absolutely. Very good point. Terrific. Okay, so here's this is really a good question, I think. I have been working from home and it looks like that's going to continue for a while. Who's the best person to work with for a home office? I've had friends tell me to go to a local contractor to build something on site, but I don't know if that's the right way to go. So I know I have some thoughts on this. I'm sure all of you do too. I feel like there are a few different ways that you can go. There are different quality levels. My father was a cabinet maker, and so was my great uncle. So I have a great appreciation for cabinetry and a pretty deep understanding of depth of knowledge of that as well. And I will tell you, in my own home, I prefer not to have someone come in and build the units in most cases. That's not true for everything. But I will tell you, I feel like we can give a much better finish if we work with one of our cabinet manufacturers. I think that there's a difference, obviously, in the finish. There's a difference in the hardware. Again, the way things really fit together, right? So if you're building something on site, even if you have a great carpenter, they're building it to fit the space, and things might not be quite square and things might not look, exactly the same as maybe it should, is what I will say. So I love a finish coming from a cabinet manufacturer, because you're going to get a nicer, finer finish that will last longer, whether that's a stain or a paint. It's just going to give you a lot more of a finished look that will last longer. However, in our area, we certainly work in a lot of older homes, that the right thing is to do a built-in and to paint it, but people have to understand what the difference is and what they're getting. And in a home office, how permanent do you want things?
We've done a lot of home offices. And where I start is who's going to use it and how it's going to be used. And just like in a kitchen, you want to make sure the way the cabinetry is designed is going to flow and function for you.
Basically, the plan.
Yeah, the plan, the upfront design. We did one where a couple wanted a nice home office. She was a physician. He was in finance. And she needed big monitors, so when she was on call, they could send MRIs and she could view them on the large screen. So she needed an area for larger screens. He needed 3 screens, and he worked on a laptop. She worked on a big Apple. So wiring and wireless connections, and where were they going to put the printer? They didn't want the printer out on the top, so we did a printer pull-out unit. So it's really finding out how it's going to be used and who's going to use it. That's the main thing, is like you said, the design up front. You really need to spend some time thinking about that.
I think the other big thing too is not just the building and the construction and the finishes, but how you're going to soundproof it. Because I know in our house, we've got a ranch style house and it's very open. And so sound travels. And right now I can hear our dogs barking all the way at the other end of the house. So, when the kids are home and everybody's home, I know we've become a little bit more lenient as far as noises, but sometimes people just can't concentrate. And it is very disrupting when you're on a call with someone to hear the dogs and the kids and everything else. So I think that's something that is super important to keep in mind, how you're going to soundproof it, how, you can get that privacy, and also what the look is behind you, when you are on the phone, that you don't see kid running through the house naked, a baby or something.
Or dishes in the kitchen sink or something like that.
So I think there's a lot to keep in mind when it comes to a home office, not just putting a desk in a room and a chair. And then from Bill's standpoint, you can probably talk to even the wear and tear on the floor with a chair constantly rolling over it.
And the echoing of sound on a hard surface,
Right.
kind of like you walk into a gymnasium.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of different options. I mean, again, keeping with the flow, if it's potentially a selling feature down the road, then obviously you can set it up as more permanent. If it's something that is more temporary that you may want to convert back, if you're going to be selling the home, then you need to keep that in consideration as well. So we try to keep the flow of the flooring, to be able to keep that in mind. But if it's separate, more permanent, and not part of the main living area, we've seen anything from commercial carpet where it's level loop, so it's a very low pop. We've seen that with a little more home decor in it, and that's when we bring in folks like Robin to kind of help tie that all together. But cork, we're seeing a lot of cork in offices, and actually in my home office, that's what I have is cork. Very insulated, very natural, and also very soundproof type of material. So yeah, good questions. The one thing I guess with the rolling, you want to limit the type of cushion or pad underneath. If you go with carpet, you want a thinner and more dense pad so that you don't have a lot of movement up and down. You get those wheels that sometimes stick and create indentations and makes it uncomfortable and actually very hard to use and so forth. So yeah, some considerations if you do carpet, but definitely carpet is an option. Carpet tiles are another great option as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
With everything going on with in the world right now, I think home offices are going to become a lot more popular. I think there's going to be a lot of people that did not work in the home whenever this gets back to, I guess, the new normal. A lot of them you're going to see staying in the home. So they're going to have more of these permanent home offices. And when they do sell, I think more people are going to be looking for those. Does the house have a home office?
Yeah, I agree. And I do think it comes back to coming back to that question. Having a professional plan the space is a lot different than having someone coming in and just building on site. So working with a professional, we've all worked on these home offices, and it does start with the planning and then making sure the clients know that there are options at different price levels, depending on what they want to invest. And as you said, how long are they staying in the home? I totally agree with you, Rob. I think home offices are here to stay. They're just going to grow, and they are going to be something that will help with the resale of a home. This is something that's a permanent change, I think, no matter what, even when things go back to normal.
What are you seeing for tops? With a lot of the built-ins and so forth. I know if it's a standalone desk, it's whatever desk that you purchase. But what are you seeing for tops in home offices?
Well, if you're going to do a wood top, which in that one of the offices that we did a wood top, but we used a walnut, and it's very hard and dense. We did put glass on top of it also to protect it, but the type of wood that you use, if you do use wood, it needs to be a harder wood and not like an alder or a soft maple. It's something more like a hard rock maple, a walnut, mahogany, even some of the more exotic woods. But then you get up there in price, or even a laminate, something like a Wilson Art or a Formica that has that wood tone to it, that wood look. Sometimes you have to kind of rub on it and get down pretty close to even when you look at it. You wouldn't know if it's wood. You would think it's wood until someone tells you, no, that's a laminate. So something resilient like that would work real well. But also you have to think about the texture on it. Some of the laminates may have like a little bit of a texture on it. So when you're writing with a single sheet of paper, you kind of get that skipping of your pen. So even just the tops, that was a good question. Just the type of tops can make a big difference too.
Yeah, because we built, Rob built the laminate countertops for our office, and they've been in for 15 years, and you can't even tell that they've been in for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, we have done quite a bit in laminates, and then we've done some even in granite. But like you said, Rob, you really have to watch the texture. I was almost going to do a show and tell. We have a new employee, and we just did a desk for her, and it turned out great. And it's kind of mid-century modern, and we used a laminate on the face and the same laminate on the top. It's not a solid, it's more of a linen. And it looks really lovely. And it looks more like, in a way, like furniture, but it's very, very functional. But it's definitely on the contemporary side. I love laminate for countertops in home offices. And wood is great if it's something that's more upscale and more furniture type with a lot of built-ins or libraries. You're going to naturally see that wood. So a lot of it does depend on the application. It'll be interesting to see what kind of home offices we start to do in the next months and years to come.
Definitely.
I think it's really exciting, and especially with technology, as you said, there's a lot to consider and a lot of interesting things happening in that field. So
yeah, I think you're going to see some of the homes that have the media rooms or the formal living room right when you walk into the front door. It's on the right or the left. I think you're going to see those go away and home offices taking their place.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great topic. This was terrific today. I think our time's about up. Yep. So why don't we wrap everything up today? Bill, how can we get in touch with you if our viewers would like to reach out to you? How could they do that?
That's the easiest way is go to our website, valorhomeservices.com. You'll have all of our contact information there, specifically how to reach us by email, phone. You can reach us on Facebook and a lot of social media as well. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Great, thank you. Robin, how about you? How could our viewers reach in touch, reach out and get in touch?
Well, first of all, I want to reiterate what Bill said. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Yep. And you can reach us also at our website, signaturehomeservices.com. We're on Facebook, Insta, Pinterest. I'm on LinkedIn and
Twitter, all of them.
Yes.
I guess all of them.
Yes, so you can reach us at any of those locations, and we hope to see you there.
Excellent. Thank you all again. I am Ann from Capozzi Design Group, and we can be reached either through our website, capozzidesigngroup.com. You can find us on all the social channels as well. And I would like to thank everybody for watching today. Thank you for to all the moms, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we will look forward to seeing everybody again soon. Have a great day.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.